morning, and thank you for coming to today's press conference here at Boston University School of Management. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Assistant Vice President and Director of Athletics, Mike Lynch.
Well, good morning, everybody. This has been a whirlwind, but a fabulous 2-week stretch here for Boston University. I left my office this morning, and I watched I'm watching the New Balance field kind of come out of the ground. Friday night, our men's hockey team won against our arch rival, and Coach Parker's final victory as a head coach here at BU. Our women's ice hockey team advanced to the national title game on Sunday, and in the midst of all that, we were searching for our next head men's hockey coach. So this today is really a culminating day in a really energetic 2-week stretch. I've got many people to thank for helping to get us to this point. We're naming our next head men's hockey coach. First of all, we have a few in the audience today, but our former players have been involved certainly from the very beginning. I want to thank them for making this such an incredible opportunity for someone to come into. All of their victories and the way they represented the institution for years has really set the stage for a great opportunity for David Quinn. Also want to thank our other alumni and friends who helped me throughout the process with their phone calls and suggestions and other prodding along the way. My staff certainly want to thank, as well as I want to make special recognition of Drew. Merrick, I don't know where Drew is, but he certainly played a vital role in this search, working tirelessly on the project and providing a lot of great research and outreach to many people throughout the process. I want to thank Todd Klipp, our Senior Vice President, and certainly Dr. Brown for their leadership and their really, I would say, relentless pursuit of the best guy for this job. And last, I want to thank, well, not last, but second to last, I want to thank Coach Parker for his 40 years of sustained excellence, which brought 3 national titles and contributed mightily to our athletics brand, as well as to the development of the university. Finally, I want to thank David Quinn, who provided us every reason to make this choice in naming him the 11th head coach of Boston University men's ice hockey. He's got a diversity of experiences, a great track record of success, and he's committed to the core values of our athletic program of excellence in athletics, academics, and community. There are really high expectations for this job. We aim to win national championships. We want to challenge and graduate our student athletes, and we want them to be contributing members of the campus and the Boston communities. And David shares all these goals and brings all of the experience to achieve them. So Saturday night brought the end of an era here in Terrier sports, one of unprecedented success and one which will never again be seen here at Boston University, one which will never be duplicated. But today marks a new beginning, drawing on that past and the rock-solid foundation that was cast by Coach Parker and the players that came with him. And we're aiming for new heights that will continue to bring great pride to Boston University. It's now my pleasure to turn the podium over to Dr. Robert Brown, President of Boston University, for his remarks and the formal introduction of our new head coach. Thank
you. Well, as Mike has said, finding the next men's hockey coach for Boston University has been a wonderful challenge. It's a challenge because we have enormous shoes to fill. Jack's success over 40 years of success on the ice, success in mentoring a great group of young men, and training and educating generations of professional hockey players and coaches, as we have found out, are just tremendous shoes to fill for the institution. We looked very carefully at a short list of very qualified candidates, and I really want to thank Mike, Drew, and Todd, as Mike has said, for their careful but really focused efforts over the last 2 weeks to bring us here today. And I am here to announce David Quinn as the 11th head coach of our men's hockey team. David, come on. Before I turn the podium over to David, I just want to say why I am so enthusiastic about David joining us, and confident that although he's got 40 years to go to prove he can do it, that he can fill Jack's shoes. David played here at Boston University starting in 1984. He's a graduate in 1989 with a degree in sociology from the College of Arts and Sciences. He's coached at essentially every level of the sport, including being an associate coach at Northeastern University, at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and finally at Boston University between 2004 and 2009. He has professional experience in coaching in the AHL in the Colorado Avalanche organization, as you know. First as a head coach of an AHL affiliate of theirs, and now as the assistant coach of the franchise team in Denver. More importantly to me, David has the ability, the experience, and the values that we hold at Boston University to lead this program going forward. And it's really a great pleasure to have David here with us. David.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Brown, Mike Lynch, Todd Clipp, Drew Maricello, Doug Sears, and last but not least, Jack Parker, because without his guidance and friendship, I certainly wouldn't be standing here today. So I appreciate that, Jack. BU is a premier college hockey program, one of the top programs in college hockey, but for me, it was a premier job. A lot of emotions going through my mind, going through me today. I'm thinking about my mother in Cranston, Rhode Island, probably watching on the internet, still crying, excited that I'm coming home. Thinking about my father who's in heaven, who's probably proud as a peacock, but if he was here, would probably be saying, "What'd you hire him for? You could have done better than that." And it's just been an incredible last 2 weeks. I've been very fortunate in my coaching career. I've been lucky in general. And my luck started back in 1980 when Larry Piatelli and Peter Bragdon offered me a unique opportunity to attend the Kent School in Kent, Connecticut. And then from a coaching standpoint, my first job was Ben Smith offering me the assistant coaching job in 1993 to be his assistant at Northeastern. I had a unique opportunity to help start a program in Nebraska, Omaha, spent 6 years there, and then going to the U.S. National Program, being head coach of the development program, coaching the top 16 and 17-year-olds in the country, where my patience level went through the roof and my communication skills improved dramatically when you're dealing with 16 and 17-year-olds. And then I had the great opportunity to come back and work with Jack for 5 years as his assistant coach, culminating in a national title in '09. Probably one of the greatest experiences I'll ever have, standing behind a bench. And then the last 4 years, I've had a great opportunity to coach pro hockey. 3 years in Lake Erie as the head coach of the Lake Erie Monsters, and this past season as the assistant coach of the Colorado Avalanche. And when this job opened up, I couldn't believe how excited I was after talking to Mike about thinking about the opportunity to come back to BU. You know, when you're coaching, you kind of just get enthralled in your job, and you're going to work every day, and you're doing the best job you can. And one of the things that struck me when I was, the last 4 years coaching pro hockey, how much I actually missed the college experience, the college coaching experience, because I realize what this job entails. I know that there's a lot more to this job than what goes on from 3 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and from 7 to 9 on Friday and Saturday nights. If it was just about winning and losing, I would have stayed in pro hockey. But I know that from my life experiences, when I went through some difficult times, the most influential people in my life were my coaches, starting with Jack, Ben Smith, Larry Piatelli, and the list goes on. And the draw to come back to Boston University was very appealing to me. It was something that I knew would be a job I'd be interested someday when Jack retired, but I didn't realize how excited I actually was when I realized that it actually might be a possibility. And it's something that I'm looking forward to. I can't explain to you how excited I am, how happy I am, how proud I am to continue the legacy that Jack has built over the last 40 years. One of the things that makes this a unique program is not only the success we've had on the ice, but you look around and the loyalty that Jack has created from a lot of our former players, and we're going to continue that to build on what Jack has built here on and off the ice over the last 40 years. So, again, I'm humbled, I'm honored, I'm excited, and I wish tomorrow was October 1st for our first practice. Thank you very much.
This time we'll open it up for questions. Once you're called on, we'll have wireless mics on either side. Please state your name and affiliation.
Scott McLaughlin, College Hockey News. Dave, when you left BU in 2009 to go to the pro ranks, did you have it in mind that that experience could help you potentially get this job someday and give you a better experience to take back here?
I just thought in general it was a great opportunity to hone your coaching skills. You know, like I mentioned, this job entails an awful lot. And when you're a college recruiter, which I spent the majority of my 14 years at the college level doing, you coach, but your number one responsibility is recruiting. And after the '09 season, it was just, to me, it was a time in my career, a point in my career where I thought it was an opportunity to take on a new challenge, to get acclimated with the pro game. I always thought in the back of my mind that college hockey was something that I would be interested in going back to if the right job opened up. I wasn't going to come back to college hockey just for any job, and we certainly all know that this just isn't any job, and it certainly isn't any job just to me. Roy Orbison.
Coach Quinn, first of all, congratulations.
Thanks, Roy Orbison. Thank you.
And there will be a CD of my hits available on 11. Bernie Corbett, Hockey on Campus, Sirius XM Radio. Coach, you've, as many in the profession, you have made a lot of stops and have gathered a lot of material on your resume. Coach Parker, on the other hand, languished there for 40 years. Never got his dream job. Red Auerbach, Danny Ainge never called. Is this, in fact, Coach, your definitive dream job, your dream come true today from a professional standpoint?
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. I mean, it's great to be home. I'm a BU guy through and through. Like I said, when Jack and I talked, when he hired me in '04, people talk. I mean, people, Jack's age and my age, people made assumptions, and I certainly never made an assumption. I actually got to the point where I thought I was going to retire before Jack. But this, without question, is my dream job. And this is, I've made a lot of moves, Bernie, and, you touched on it. I've taken on challenges. I've loved every one of them. I have no regrets. But, at this point in my career, at my age, this is something that I hope I'm doing a long time.
Hopefully for 40 years.
Hopefully for 40, 86, exactly.
Hi, Coach. Steve Buckley, Boston Herald. To your right.
All right.
Fine, thanks. Jack was a BU guy through and through, yet he flirted on a couple of occasions going to the NHL as a head coach. So can you, without predicting the future, is it possible down the road that a similar flirtation would present itself?
Like you said, you never can predict. I would, and I told this story to Dr. Brown and Mike Lynch when we spoke last week. I knew I missed college hockey. It struck me about 3 weeks ago when, in a 1 week stretch, the Nashville Predators came into Colorado to play us, and Colin Wilson's on that team, who obviously was on our '09 team. And he called me the night before, and he wanted to go to dinner, and at the pro level, that's frowned upon, so I wasn't able to do that. And 2 nights later, the St. Louis Blues show up, and Kevin Shattenkirk's on that team, and he wants to do the same thing the night before. And we texted, and I saw him at the pregame skate the next day, and I was actually talking to Joe Sacco after that. You talk about how unique the college experience is when you build those relationships. You don't get that at the pro level. And then 2 days later, we go out to Anaheim, and Nick Bonino's waiting for me as the team bus gets there. And it struck me that, boy, that's something you don't get at the pro level. And 1 week later, Jack retires, and it certainly, I don't know, believe me, this is a job that, in the back of my mind, it was always something that you dream about doing. But in my last 4 years, and in particular that week, the timing was unbelievable where, I have an opportunity to, it really reminded me of what college hockey was all about, and I missed it. So, to me, I've moved around an awful lot. I'm here for the long haul. I have no intention of going anywhere. I will not seek any other jobs. This is something that, I've been a lot of different places, and it's just good to be home.
Nancy Matthews, Boston Globe. Dave, is it possible to even put into words what you learned from Jack during your time here, both as a player and as a assistant coach?
Well, I don't want to embarrass him too much, but in 1986, when I was diagnosed with hemophilia and I had to quit playing, it was a pretty difficult time for me. When you're 20 years old and you're your first-round draft pick, and you think you're going to play 15 years in the National Hockey League, and then all of a sudden your life gets railroaded. It's a very difficult time, and the support I got from Jack, I can't put into words. And it's probably the reason I'm into coaching today. Like I mentioned, the support he gave me, and he's much more than a hockey coach to me. He's been a friend, he's been a mentor, and I know a lot of former players, most of the former players feel that way about him. But the thing that struck me is when I came back to coach with him in '04, we hadn't coached together ever really, but obviously I played for him. But I was shocked when the practices started how much of my coaching values and my coaching core had come from Jack. Obviously we had maintained a great friendship after I left in '89, but we had never, we talked a little bit of hockey, but we had never coached together or been on a staff together. And when I came back in '04, it struck me how much I knew I had learned a lot from him, but from a coaching standpoint, I was shocked at how many similarities we had in our approach to coaching. So I've learned an awful lot from him, not just from a coaching standpoint, but from a life standpoint.
Kevin Dillon, Daily Free Press. Have you had a chance to talk to Jack since you got hired, and has he had a chance to say anything to you about some advice on what this job entails?
Yes, I talked to him last night. I said, don't mess it up. We talked twice last night. We talked this morning, so we talked quite a bit. So I think he's excited for me. That's what he says anyway.
Scott McLaughlin again. I was wondering if you've had a chance to talk to Mike Davis and Buddy Powers, and just maybe what you plan to do as far as assistant coaches go.
I have talked to Buddy. Mike was out in recruiting, so we haven't had a chance to talk. But I mean, you're talking about two guys that I'm very close to. Buddy was one of my assistants in Ann Arbor for a year. Mike actually stayed with me during his recruiting trip to BU, so our relationship goes back a long, long way. This program isn't broke. The thing that's unique about this situation is usually when you become a head coach of a Division I program in any sport, usually it's because the team's losing and there's been a coaching change. But Jack's retired, and we certainly have a lot of good players here. The end of the season was certainly the highlight of the season. Obviously, I know Jack's frustrated with the 2-7-2 stretch they had in January, but this is not broke. And I've worked with both those guys before, and I've loved working with them, and I look forward to working with them again.
David, Tom Karen-Nesson. Can you talk a little about the adjustment now you'll have to go through after dealing with professional athletes, going back now dealing with student athletes, and how different that'll be?
Yeah, I got that question a lot when I got into pro hockey. What's going to be the biggest change? And at the end of the day, you're dealing with people and you're coaching hockey. And obviously, you're not going to coach, for instance, at the pro level. You're not coaching a Tyson Barrie, who's 21-year-old defenseman for us in Colorado, and you're not taking the same approach with Milan Hajduk, who's 37 and has 2 Stanley Cup rings. The adjustment for me, there won't be an adjustment at all because I have 14 years of college coaching experience. It's something I love doing. Like I mentioned before, it's something I've missed. And I don't foresee any adjustment at all. Matter of fact, coach at the American League level, you're dealing with a little bit older age group, but the age difference isn't the same. And it's very much a developmental league, and it's about spending, you have to work at both sides of the relationship. That's one thing we talked about when I talked with Mike and Dr. Brown is, you need to be demanding. You need to hold people accountable, but the only way that works is if you work at the other end of the relationship. And to me, especially at this level, when the impact that the coach makes is immeasurable, you need to make sure you focus on all those areas. And that's one of the things I've learned from Jack when I was here as a player, because I know how much time he spent on it with us, but also, for the 5 years I worked with him. So I don't anticipate any transition, really. The only transition is going to be that I am going to finish the season with the Avalanche. Our regular season ends on the 27th. Hopefully we can make a run and make the playoffs, but the minute our season ends, I'll be back here, back in Boston.
Quick follow-up there. You talked about what Jack meant to you as a player, and the high draft pick, and what you went through as a player and a person. Has that helped you deal with players as a coach now? Obviously, at the AHL level,
right.
The disappointment of not getting the call up or coming back down, that personal connection. What you went through as a player, how did that forge the coach you are now?
Yeah, I don't think any doubt that what I went through in '86 and watching the way Jack reached out to me and handled the situation has helped me do the same thing in my coaching career. I mean, you learn from the people you're with, and I'm hoping I took a little bit of something from every coach I worked with and worked for, and certainly that was a huge part of what I took away from not only playing for Jack, but coaching with him.